Cool. All right. Well, our first question is first a bit about yourself. Please give us a brief overview of how you landed in an environmental education career. Was this career choice always what you wanted to do? Specifically, were you planning to get involved in environmental education in high school and college? And how did things change or not change? I don't know what order we want to go in. You guys can popcorn, or we can go in order of how you appear on the screen.
Ilka, you're unmuted. You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So I didn't start out in environmental education based on my bio that you just heard also. I started out as an elementary school teacher. I always wanted to teach, and then I taught for 4 short years because then I decided I didn't want to teach anymore, but I still wanted to be in education, and there was a position at the Explorium Science Center. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. So I've always had a love of learning and want to continue to share that. That morphed into working for Gulf Quest, and Valerie and Mark and Tina know how long I was at Gulf Quest before it opened, and but it was great to be able to open a museum and get it going despite all of the problems that we had. But I think that may have made the shift to what I am doing now because I was able to meet people like Tina and Valerie and Mark and the Baykeeper team, because working for a maritime museum really led me to environmental things as well. And so I met a lot of you all there, and then my predecessor at Baykeeper, I don't know if any of you, some of you might remember or know Jamie Bullock, but I just admired her so much. And when she left Baykeeper, I thought, oh, that's so sad for Mobile, and it's so sad for Baykeeper. And then I thought, wait, maybe I could have her job. And so I applied to be an environmental educator, the education and outreach coordinator at Baykeeper, and you know, truly think it's my education experience that has helped me in this job. So that's it. Kind of, you know, one thing led to another with becoming an environmental educator, but it's always been a passion of mine, so it was a natural fit too.
Awesome. Who would like to go next? And I can repeat the question too if anybody needs be at any point.
I'll volunteer.
Awesome.
Okay. I would, you know, sort of back up what Elka said. No path. My path, at least, has not been a nice straight line anywhere. I sort of tried a few different things and ended up here. I actually started out in research, and I really enjoyed that. I found answering the questions fun and enjoyable. As you progress in research, you try to write proposals to fund your own grants. And there's a lot of politics that was involved, which is not something that I enjoyed at all. I went into teaching, and I taught, as you heard, up at the University of Mobile for more than a decade. I really, really enjoyed teaching. I enjoyed interacting with the students. I didn't like putting up with the bureaucracy quite as much as I liked interacting with the students. And I was particularly excited about labs. They really needed someone at that point who would develop their labs and get them out of the 1950s and at least into the 1990s when I was up there. And so I spent a lot of time developing labs and trying to figure out how students could learn best by doing. And in doing that, I became very interested in experiential education or hands-on education. I really enjoyed that part of the job. And so I ended up actually teaching a couple of science methods classes up there where I interacted with folks like coming up through Ilka's path of people who wanted to be teachers. I did a number of teacher workshops up there. We had an environmental education facility at the university for a period of time, and I taught in their workshops, and I found that that was something that I really enjoyed. And I came back down to the Sea Lab and sought out that kind of area here at the Sea Lab. So it's certainly not been a straight line path for me, and I made adjustments along the way, figuring out what I liked and what I didn't like, and also made some adjustments for family, as we all do. I didn't put my children down there, but I have two wonderful children who are grown and not e-learning in my house right now, which is wonderful because I don't have to share bandwidth.
All
Awesome,
right.
thank you.
I don't mind going next, unless Valerie, you want to.
It's okay, Mark. I'll go after you.
All right. Well, I could joke by saying, yeah, I knew as a 5-year-old that I wanted to be executive director of the Alabama Coastal Foundation. Part of my job interview that I did now 9 years ago, I mentioned when I was sitting on the back steps with my dad as a 5-year-old looking out over the Gulf of Mexico at a thunderstorm and then seeing the lightning strike and counting to see how many miles away it was. But it is, I almost didn't apply for the job that I have right now because I don't have a science background. I love science as a kid and, growing up, but I have, basically the good news is when I applied, the person who was leaving, she said they're looking for somebody like you who I've got some nonprofit management experience. And the job that I was leaving was the Mobile Area Education Foundation, where I met Ilka for the first time. So really focused on public education, and my title was Community Engagement Director. So that meant that I had to understand what the education was and be able to translate it into normal speak. So I applied for the job and got it, and been learning ever since. And you hire good people to who know the ropes and everything. Then it's kind of on autopilot. But every day I learn something new, and yes, I do environmental education, but it was definitely not something that I was aiming to do earlier. I just found that path.
Awesome,
Right.
thank you.
Well, I'm happy to go now as well, and it's so good to hear some more personal tidbits from you all who motivate me in my work and inspire me in my work too. And I also just wanted to say thank you to all the Gulf Corps members for the important work that you're doing in our region. And I followed the start of your program since it was first announced, and even before when y'all were trying to get the funding for it. So I'm a big fan of it and really happy that this exists. So as for me, I didn't really know that I wanted to specialize in environmental education until I was in my career. And I knew that it would be very important to do something that I'm passionate about and would be more than just a job, because the work that you do takes up a significant amount of your time. And so it was I knew that I wanted to do something that I loved and cared about. I first knew that I wanted to work in the environmental field while interning at the Dauphin Island Sea Lab and working for the Gulf of Mexico Alliance after that. When I was working for the Gulf of Mexico Alliance, we managed grants across the 5 Gulf states. So I had the privilege of getting introduced to institutions all across the region doing environmental education in a variety of types of programs, whether they were formal or informal. So that kind of gave me my first taste of getting to see what environmental education was all about from a lot of different perspectives. But I really started knowing that education was the field that I wanted to pursue while working as a nature guide with Wild Native Tours. I took people out to explore the Mobile Tensaw Delta, which is one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. And this was very exciting for me to get to share about this incredible ecosystem. And getting to see that curiosity peak in others while I was out there is what started to get me thinking maybe education's the area that I'd like to specialize in. and going on to work with the Alabama Coastal Foundation. That's a major part of the organization's mission. So getting immersed in even more types of programs focused on education. And now that I'm working for Nature Connect, this organization started because of the understanding that if we want future generations to care for the earth, to be stewards, that they have to grow up spending time in nature. And it's an outdoor school, and I get to see the love of the outdoors come alive in children and getting to see the impact that these programs have on their lives. So it's a very rewarding experience.
Awesome, thank you. Well, you already actually sort of answered our second question, but I'll go ahead and ask it. Shifting to more your program as a whole, what does your program or organization's environmental education look like, and what age group does it target?
Y'all want to stay in order? Because I can go ahead and go, if that's cool with y'all. Good? Okay, good. My program, the main program I oversee at Baykeeper is SWAMP, Strategic Watershed Awareness and Monitoring Program. And it starts out as presentations. Well, first of all, in order to do the full program, we have to have a pretty large grant. And this is with high school students locally in Mobile County and Baldwin County. And we go in and start off with presentations about our watershed and human impact on our watershed or our watersheds. We focus specifically on the school's watershed. So LaFleur High School, for example, is, oh, thank you, Carrie, that's awesome. LaFleur's watershed is 3 Mile Creek, so they learn about that watershed. Then what we do is they sign up to be trained to be monitors and water quality monitors. And we actually, Cade Kistler, our program director, trains the students with the Alabama Water Watch kits, which I think most of you might be familiar with. And we go out once a month with the students to 4 to 5 sites around their watershed. And they collect samples and they run the tests with the Alabama Water Watch kits. So that's the main part of the program. And we've had anywhere from 4 to 5 or 6 schools that we've worked with at a time. We also can go out to the middle schools and elementary schools and do presentations with them, and we call that SWAP because we drop the monitoring. We also can train adults to be water quality monitors, so we have the adult component as well. So that's the main program that I do. And I think someone had asked a question about what age group, and I know each of us works with different age groups, but I particularly work with high school students, which is new to me, and I love it in the context of when we go out with them to monitor. Sometimes when you have an auditorium of high school students and you've got the PowerPoint on and they've had lunch, they get a little drowsy or sleepy. I mean, you could try to stand on your head and do the presentation, but I don't know if that would help sometimes. But it is so rewarding to go out with these high school kids. You know, usually there's 15 to 20 at a time. They get so into the monitoring, and they do, we do mini cleanups at each site. They get really mad when they see the litter and the junk that is out there in the water and on the roadways. So it's really cool to see them really change within one school year right in front of your eyes. They're open to so many more things and just so much more aware. So they are.
So Discovery Hall programs at the C-Lab, we mostly serve K-12 audience and their teachers, of course. We have a number of different programs. During the school year, we're basically a field trip facility. Groups come down here. We have dormitory facilities, cafeteria facilities, that kind of thing. So we have school groups that come down just during the day, or that school groups that come down and stay overnight. They're primarily from Alabama, but we also have groups come from out of state. We have a group from Missouri that comes down every year and stays for about 8 days. We have about 15, 16 different classes that those groups can choose among and study while we're here, but our underlying philosophy for all of those is don't sit them in a classroom and lecture at them. Put them outside, let them learn and discover on their own. lead them through that environment and let them learn by doing. That's experiential education, and that's our, if you will, our bread and butter and our guiding light in terms of educational philosophy. During the summertime, we serve the same audience, but we kind of switch gears a little bit, and we have a number of less scholarly, more fun programs, camps, and classes. And throughout the year, we also do a number of workshops for teachers. I know I'm old, but when I went to school, there wasn't any such thing as climate change, and I bet that's true for Mark's younger than me, for maybe Mark's age and up kind of thing. So, you know, there's some new things that science is discovering, and we want to share those with teachers, and we want to get them to the students. So we also offer workshops that share those kinds of area science with teachers so that they can integrate them into their programs in the classroom. We also work with informal educators, which are folks from nature centers and wildlife refuges and state parks, and folks like Valerie and Ilka and Mark, and come down. So, you know, this whole education is not strictly, in fact, I would argue that less education takes place in the classroom than should. But, you know, not every kid can learn effectively in a classroom setting. And so by adding the outdoor education component to their life in a formal way or in an informal way, that student becomes more literate, more environmentally literate, but also a better steward of their environment. So we do all of that down here at the Sea Lab. We also have an outreach program. You may have seen our truck traveling around the states called the Baymobile, kind of a play on our local community here. And that goes out to student groups, underserved schools, but also environmental festivals around the area. And we sure missed being at Delta Woods and Waters this past weekend. So. Mark?
All right. So Carrie, you want to toss it back over here? So we, Alabama Coastal Foundation, we have been around for 27 years, and we do K through 12 as well as adult ed. Thank you, Carrie. Let me get this off and this up.
Look at you all prepared, Mark.
Sure, well prepared. I can't get my screen. Here we go. Let's do it that way. So, and I do want to make sure for it, just as a special request, especially for the Youth Corps, if you, all of our social media handles are at Alabama Coastal for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So if you can like those, we just posted an online thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But I'm just pointing out the fact that the mission statement, we break it down for cooperation, education, and participation. When we say cooperation, that means we work with everybody. It's kind of awareness raising. Our education's where we get the understanding, and then really the most important part of our mission is the participation. It's great to learn and to know, but if you don't do something with it and volunteer in a meaningful way, about 90% of our stuff that gets done is because of our volunteers. So that's why we kind of frame it up like that. We have first through third grade Bay Buddy. It's a program where we send volunteers into the classroom, and then we actually just put those online since the classrooms are not physically, you cannot gather that closely. So if you have any nieces and nephews who are first, second, or third graders, or you know any teachers that want those resources, if you could point them to our website. Our water festivals is for fourth graders. It's hands-on building watersheds. It's doing water filtration activities. We just posted last week a new in-home water conservation program. And so we try to make them fun for the fourth grade age group. Again, you can't do those physically at the schools. You have to, we are now doing those all online. Our Coastal Kids Quiz was supposed to happen last week. That's where we've given over $125,000 in scholarships for the top teams for those, for basically study and resources all throughout. And then they do quizzes like Jeopardy where they buzz in the right answers. And then our Estuary Corps, we're actually going to go online. That's one that we partner with the Dauphin Island Sea Lab on. And we're going to use their videos. We're going to go to Wild Native is allowing us to actually 10 feet apart do the kayak stuff. So we're going to have some in person, but most of that's going to be done online now. We're going to make an announcement for our newsletter that'll be popping out on Friday. And then CASEL is our Coastal Alabama Service Learning. That's all the service hours that high school students need, and we match them up with whatever the communities need, like coastal cleanup and those types of things. And they can volunteer to help out at one of our younger, the schools that are in their field, try to help them out as well. But then we do a lot of adult ed too. So it's not just K through 12. We do compliance workshops for real estate developers and lawyers who need those continuing education units, CEUs. We've done drone workshops. We've done Seagrass campaign that Valerie helped to create. We have a really cool resource. I should have mentioned this earlier, our Osprey video camera, which is a joint effort with the City of Orange Beach and the Nature Conservancy and ACF. We developed a 3rd grade lesson plan for 3rd grade teachers, but now the 3rd grade parents can kind of track those things. And it's a live video feed. You can check it out afterwards. But those types of things we try to do as well. And so that's our, kind of our K through 12 large perspective for what we ACF does. It's a lot. But really, you try to meet people wherever they are in whatever facet they are in as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Excellent. I was going to say too, there was a question about things that we work on together, and that Seagrass campaign, Ilka actually created that lesson plan for us. So she created it and tied it to all the standards. And then our staff, myself and Catherine Kuhn, we would take it to 5th grade classrooms across Mobile and Baldwin County to teach that class. So absolutely lots of collaboration taking place among the different groups. And for Nature Connect and the environmental education that I do there, we're all about immersing children in nature. And you'll find us out with our students catching salamanders in the creek, climbing trees in the forest, using a seine net in Mobile Bay, and much more. Our programs, they include plant and animal study, exploring the outdoors, animal tracking, storytelling, nature skills and crafts, and lots of fun and play. So I wanted to show, I have a book that is really excellent resource. So I don't know if you can see it on there. Let's see. Here we go. So
yeah,
this is Coyote's Guide. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
we can see.
First time using this in a long time. So this is a really great resource, and if environmental education is something that you're interested in getting involved in, I highly recommend this book. Brinkley Hutchings, she is the director and founder of Nature Connect. She first began the program in Wilmington, North Carolina, and she is from Fairhope, so she moved home to start the program here in Baldwin County. And if you'd like to pick up a copy of the Mobile Bay magazine, there's a spread in there featuring Nature Connect right now, so pretty exciting about the history of how it all began. And I wanted to show our programs as well. We have our preschool, which it's been a dream of Brinkley's to make it a 5-day-a-week preschool. So this fall, we'll be launching a full-time preschool for children ages 3 to 5. I facilitate our homeschool class. And speaking of our homeschool class, we have been doing Zoom calls. We've also been doing Zoom calls for the preschoolers too, and we have opened those up for the public. But something funny to show, while we were doing a Zoom call the other day, this is one of our kids. He was about 8 feet, oh wait, it clicked over, let's see. He was about 8 feet up in a tree in his yard with his iPad doing our call the other day. So they have a lot of fun even during Zoom calls. But we do that program on Wednesdays, and we have it year round. And then we have an after school program as well. and that's for ages 5 to 10. And we do that at Mayday Park. We do a lot of these programs at parks in the area, and we have a formal partnership with Church of the Apostles, and we're planning to build a schoolhouse there. So we're quite excited about that. And then we have our forest families, and those are usually on Fridays, and children with their parents can come and be immersed in nature. And we are still planning on doing our summer program starting in June, as long as the CDC and our governor say it's safe to do so. So we're looking forward to that. And lots of programs for kids ages 0 to 12 to get involved with Nature Connect.
Awesome, thank you. And panelists, feel free to share links in the chat box as well to any of these awesome resources that you're sharing with us. Next question, I clicked on the wrong page. Here we go. Okay, so the next question is career advice. If someone wanted to go into the career, if someone wanted to go into a career in environmental education, what would you suggest they do? For instance, is it necessary to have a degree to really be able to teach?
I guess I'll start since we're going in order. If you want to teach, yes, you really do need to have a certification to teach. There are some loopholes in areas where there may be a need for teachers, and there's you know, you can get a temporary certification, but in order to truly teach, especially in a classroom setting, you're going to need your degree and a certification. So I would look to doing that. As far as doing environmental education outside of the regular classroom, I think all four of us, Mark, Valerie, Tina, and myself, you know, I think you always want to just look for opportunities, look for, you know, keep your eyes open for things. There are so many opportunities out there to be in environmental education without having all the background. Like Mark mentioned, not really having a science background, but he's, you know, deep in science with environmental education. So I would just always keep your eyes open for opportunities. Always keep up your certifications too. I will admit to you, I did not do that with my education certification because I didn't think I was going to go back in the classroom. And I don't know if I'll ever do that, but it inhibits you if you don't keep up certifications and professional development and things like that. So if you do go down the path of environmental education and steer away from that, make sure you always, you know, keep up those certifications and that professional development so you can stay in tune to it, because you don't ever want an opportunity to pass you by because you weren't prepared or didn't have the right certification or classes or things that you need to do to have for it. I don't know if I answered the question or not.
I think that was great. Thank you.
So, you know, I know just right here on the call, but also across the community, people approach environmental education from a whole variety of backgrounds. Education is one of those backgrounds. Science is one of those backgrounds. Social science is a growing part of the environmental education movement. So folks are coming in with a social science background. So it really is a field that can take advantage of the skills that you bring to it. And the jobs that you can get are very varied. You can be writing curricula behind your desk on a computer 8 hours a day, and you may find that fulfilling. Or you can be outside leading groups every day, every hour of the day. And some people find that we had a young lady that worked for us for a period of time, and she found that exhausting and very tiring, and soon realized that outdoor education was not for her. So even within the field of environmental education, there are a variety of backgrounds that we need in the field and that you can come to the field with, as well as a variety of positions that you would fill as an environmental educator. So you come back to figuring out, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? And what are you good at? I had a student many years ago who wanted to be a marine mammologist really badly. He just thought those were the bee's knees, and he had trouble passing general biology. And so, you mentor that student and say, there's a couple of different ways of working with marine mammals. Obviously, getting to that PhD level so that you can work with them from that perspective is not going to be the way that you're going to get there. Let's find an alternative pathway. And I would say that's true of environmental education also. Figure out what you like to do and what you don't like to do. Sometimes it's more of the latter than the former. It's a process of elimination as opposed to a process of active selection. But the field of environmental education needs all kinds of people in it. So don't give up just because you don't like to be outside in Alabama in August, which I love. That's why I live here. My family lives on the West Coast, or they escaped there, and that's where I came from. That to me was nirvana until I went diving in the water there, and it's very cold, and you have to wear a dry suit. And I don't like that much. And they have these plants that, sargassum and kelp that go around you while you're diving. That unnerved me. I like the seagrasses down here, and I like the fact that the water is warm. So
that is great.
So
and
I would say that, I'm sorry, Mark. I would say that you can get there without a degree, but certainly if you want to progress in the field, some sort of college undergraduate degree, I think, is a big part of showing that you have the knowledge and the common sense to be able to work in that field. And like I said, it can be in lots of different fields in college. And it is true, Elka said this, that the formal certification process for working in the classroom is a little bit more rigorous, but maybe that's not where your interests lie. And so that's not, an absolute necessity to be in the field. We have 7 full-time educators down here. 3 of them have teaching certification and 3 do not, or 4 do not at this point. So you can get there with lots of different pathways that lead you to that goal. Now I'll shut up and let Mark talk.
No, I was going to say I echo what Tina and Ilka have said, but that's one of the advices that I try to give when I'm speaking to college groups, and in high school too, for that matter. When I was that age, I would try to volunteer as much as I could, just to get that experience from my perspective, to see if I like it or don't like it. And that's one of the ways you'll find out if you like it or not like it. And there was one time I volunteered lived up in the city of Birmingham and volunteered at the one of the planning departments there. And I volunteered so much that they felt bad, and they said they would like to pay me, which was like, I was like, oh, sure, that'll be fine. So, and I know one of the comments up there was about internships. We have summer, we have internships throughout the year, summer, fall, and spring, but those are either for class credit or unpaid, to give people experience, but also to give us organizations a chance to look at them. And I have hired many of those individuals who kind of rise to the top too. So that's a way that you can get your leg in the door, let them see you, let you see them, how they operate and everything. But that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you, is to volunteer your time. You can learn a lot, and you can put that on your resume for future work. I always say that for internships, we can't pay, but we are definitely good references for future work. So.
Everyone's had very thorough responses. So I will just say, in terms of informal opportunities, that's more where a degree isn't always required. For example, ecotourism companies like the one that I work with, Wild Native Tours, they do not require a degree to work with them. And one of the cool things too is, in spending so much time on the boat, you can also pursue your captain's license if you want to go that route. And there's a lot of avenues of work in being a boat captain. Personally, working on the water as a guide, taking people out kayaking and taking them out on our large pontoon boat, our pontoon seats about 40 people. So that is a classroom on the water, and you're getting the chance to share all about the flora and fauna of the ecosystem. Wild Native Tours, they really pride themselves in continually developing new content to keep the guides engaging. So whatever you as a guide are really interested in, then you start researching that particular plant or animal, or maybe it has to do with culture and history of the area. We operate across coastal Alabama, so both in the Delta ecosystem and in the estuary and Bon Secours Bay, where we do a dolphin and wildlife paddle. So with that type of job, the most important things are being a good communicator, having a friendly personality, and also a hard work ethic. So that type of job too, you're getting to be outdoors a lot. I really appreciated Tina's input about whatever your skills are and whatever your interests are, the things that you're passionate about, discovering that through the work that you do. And so guide work is certainly being outside often and in the heat and that sort of thing. But the other input that I had was really in line with what others had to say in terms of volunteering. Living where we do, there's tons of volunteer opportunities. I like seeing Baykeeper, for example, they've been doing these virtual cleanups in their neighborhoods. And so we tasked our kids, for our homeschoolers, to get out with their families in their neighborhood, or to find a local area to walk around and pick up trash if their neighborhood was clean, and post photos of them doing that type of work. So there's still some opportunities right now in this time to still volunteer for the environment.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So we have one more question from us before we turn things over to the members. I clicked on the wrong window again. All right, so our final question is, looking into the future, how do you think the work you are doing will change in the next 5 to 10 years? And
Okay. So the work that I have been doing has changed in the past month. I think all of us are feeling that, because we're here with you on a computer rather than getting to meet with you personally. It's been really challenging, and I think I'll get to the main question in just a second, but it's been really challenging. I know it's probably been the same way for Mark, Valerie, and Tina, to not be with the kids or the students. It's just really hard as an educator for me. So I think that there's definitely going to be more technology involved. I would love to say that I would be put out of a job in 5 to 10 years, because then that means that the earth is in just this perfect state of cleanliness and loveliness, but that's just not going to be the case. I think there's going to be, more interesting ways of, for me, we work a lot with litter, removing litter or stopping litter, and I'm excited to see. Sorry, y'all, let me mute it for just a second.
I saw Cody's cat come through earlier, so you're all right. The cat was much quieter.
It's the mail carrier. She is the sweetest dog, but y'all, you would think she turns into Cujo. Anyway, so I think it's going to be really cool to see the tools and the things that are going to help us do our jobs better. I'm always excited to see what the students come up with. That's always the coolest thing. Part of the SWAMP program is the students have to come up with a solution to a problem that they're seeing in their area. And somebody asked about the most rewarding thing earlier, and I will say that the Bi-County conference that we did last year, where we brought all 5 of our schools together, the 15 or 20 kids that we're monitoring, and they did a poster presentation and shared with each other. They got to see that, yeah, LaFleur has trouble, but so does Fairhope, and so Citronelle has the same issues that maybe Alma Bryant has, but they're completely, different environments. And so I'm just excited to see some of the new technology and new changes, new tools that we might have out there in our future. And hopefully we won't be always doing things virtually, because this is not going to cut it. But hopefully we'll be back to normal, or some sort of normal soon.
I echo that. The Yogi Berra used to say it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. COVID was not predicted. Certainly we all recognize that. And we all recognize we're all learning a lot about Zoom and GoToConnect and WebEx and all of these different learning platforms, and the security issues associated with them, and how to effectively share information through that kind of platform. And we're learning about the efficacy of doing that kind of stuff. We're learning about what really engages audiences, and what's kind of they're just tuning out and not watching. And so it's hard to say where the field is headed. Certainly the field itself of environmental education depends on being able to get outside. And it's helpful to have a guide, mentor, educator, leader to do that kind of thing, but it can be done on your own. And I think the field is growing tremendously with one of the things that we've learned through this COVID experience is the importance of getting outside and the benefits of getting outside. Whereas we're interacting with a group in California, and we're now talking about the movement to include outdoor education as part of your formal schooling. We're going to need outdoor type people who know something about what's outdoors to do that, and we're going to need healthy ecosystems that are fairly representative of that area. In other words, not the manicured yard at the school, to take those students to, whether it's formal learning or an informal setting. So there is growth in the field, and I'm particularly optimistic about that. Even just in the state of Alabama, the number of environmental education facilities that are hiring people and getting trained educators out there to run their programs, I think is really promising. And that's something that Mark and Valerie and Ilka and I are all committed to, is the more EE, the better, right?
And kudos to Carrie Creighton and all of y'all. This is a very well run. This is, I think, the most people I've had for an actual meeting, for an hour. So this is very nice. We started changing everything around to online pretty quickly as well. I sent the link to get to all of our stuff, the Bay Buddy, the 1st through 3rd grade stuff. We had developed that like 20 years ago, but it's developed for in-class. These are very kind of high-level things that the students themselves can go through, but there's an animation. I don't know if y'all have used the software where the cartoon talks when you're talking and stuff like that. So we've learned how to do that for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. And if you can take a look at it. It's very elemental, but that's that age group. It gives their parents 20 minutes of freedom, to do something else. But every single one of our stuff is tied to what the course objectives are for the state. So we try to make sure the teachers realize that everything we do is based in good science and good facts. And if you don't do that, then you should not be doing it. Our 4th grade water conservation program, we're going to have another one released for water filtration in-home activity next week. So you can take a look at that. And then, like I said, the Coastal Kids Quiz. We have a Utilities United quiz, so if you want to see what a fatberg looks like, you can click that off of our homepage as well. Yes, it does. It is as nasty as it sounds. And then our estuary core, we're a lot of that, we're still, changing that around. But and we rely on other people like Dauphin Island Sea Lab, their whole virtual stuff. They have done a great job. So those resources are in our newsletter and other places too. So trying to promote other people's, efforts is important to do. One thing that I will say that in terms of future efforts, it's great to get these resources online, but if you can't measure the impact, if any of y'all know Google Analytics, if you don't, if you do, let me know, because I'm still learning it myself. But if you don't, that I think is going to be a very valuable skill set to have, that in the, your analytics for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all the social media stuff, to see what the impact is having. That right there, a lot of people throwing stuff online, but then they don't know if people are looking at it or not. So that right there will be the biggest trend, in my opinion. More content is going to be online, but then how do you measure the impact and, create that conversation so it's not just a static one thing thrown out there.
Absolutely. I think that's a really valid point. And I would say that I think with climate change, people are understanding more and more the importance of environmental education and environmental stewardship. And in times like these, where we are social distancing, as Tina mentioned, people really they're spending more time in nature than ever before. So I think when we do see this virus slow down and we do see getting back to our lives pre-COVID, I think people are still going to want that engagement in nature and to keep getting outside even after this is over. I think people are really going to continue to have that desire. And I was going to share too that my hope is really that this pandemic helps people to realize more their responsibility to the planet and to one another. And I think in the near future, there's going to be more opportunities related to the environment, education, and science. And I've seen that growth already in my 10-year career, and I've been really excited about it. Again, like Tina said about the facilities that are popping up, like the Lodge and Gulf Shores, they have a brand new education facility out there. I actually haven't had the opportunity to visit it yet, so that's something that I'm looking forward to checking out after this. And I think that environmental education is also most effective through creativity, both formal and informal education, and incorporating things like the arts and outdoor adventure are key ways to engage people. I think finding the things that really matter to other people, how do you build that connection with people? What are their interests? What do they care about? And then you build on that, and getting people outside in fun ways is one of the first steps, I think, because people start having a great time, they build that love for nature, and then as they go, they become more curious. Like Ilka was talking about the issues and the problems in their community, they start noticing some things, maybe pollution oriented or health related, that they want to approach and see how they can bring a solution to that issue. And speaking of, there was one resource that I pulled up on my screen, and Carrie, will you let me know is it still viewable?
I just shared it with you again.
Okay, cool. So this is a magazine, an online magazine called Emergence, and this is a podcast that I wanted to share with y'all because I found it to be really enlightening, and maybe I can put it in the chat too to share it with you all. But lots of opportunities related to science and the importance of science in times like these. So that I think connects well with that question.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, I hate to I feel like I should have committed to the 2:30 time instead, but yeah, so we're running out of time here, but I'm going to open it up in case anybody has any pressing questions. And if it's about can you get me a job, email me first, then I'll give you their email. Yeah.
Also, I see our panelists have already been answering a lot of the questions in the chat box as well. If there's anything that you want to expand on verbally, you can as well. And also, like Harry said, any pressing questions from our members before we log off.
I do know, can I jump in? This is Ilka, because you can't see me. Bray and Haley had a question, and I just want to make sure that we got those. I noticed Bray was asking for a piece of advice. I think I tried to get that in with what I had said, that, to keep up certifications and professional development, always just keep your eyes open for opportunities. And then Haley asked about rewarding, and I think we all answered that. We really love our jobs and love what we do and working in the environment, and for me, especially kids. So I think we got all of your questions, but if you have any more.